Hey, and welcome to another edition of The Awakened Heart with your girl, Dorothy Inez,
And Christy Lynn.
and we are here today because, this is something Christy Lynn and I have been having on our hearts for a long time, and now the time was right. And
The
so
time has
during this,
come.
yes, exactly. And so during our show, The Awakened Heart, what we are going to be doing is talking about all things spiritual and all things that impact women. And most of what we're going to talk about comes from a spiritual perspective because Christy Lynn and I, we come out of and are partially still in the Christian tradition. And so we call our show The Awakened Heart because we are challenging the way things are being done right now. And we want to share our own journeys and our own shift with you because we know a lot of women are going through it, and we want to create a safe space for you to talk about the things that matter most. And so today's topic is the divine feminine. I know a lot of you've been hearing a lot about this divine feminine, and you're wondering, what the heck is it? I'm going to be honest. I'm wondering what the heck is it. I'm just learning about it, but my girl Christy Lynn, we're going to talk about it today. And I might agree with her. I might not.
Mhm.
Might agree with
Yep.
me, and she might not. So, Christy, let's get into our girlfriend conversation. Let's let these sisters in. But before we do, girl, what you got in your cup? What you got in your cup tonight?
Girl, you challenged me last time. I got some mint. I got some
Mint.
mint tea.
Mint. Oh,
Hmm.
mint, not rose, not rose,
Not rose. I did the rose last time.
but mint. Today, your girl is, I'm doing Scorpio. My magic hour teas. You see, they're all right here. Magic hour tea. I'm doing Scorpio. Scorpio is a black tea that has what in it, Christy Lynn? Roses. And
Roses.
roses, vanilla. It's amazing. So that's what I'm drinking in my cup tonight. It's like aromatherapy in my cup.
And if anyone that owns the Magic Hour Tea Company is watching, we'll proudly sponsor. If you be a sponsor for us, we will share your tea.
We will proudly share your tea.
We will
Okay.
proudly share that. We
So,
don't get any payback for that, FYI. But if you're watching Magic Hour Tea, we love you.
yes, he loves you girls.
Uh-huh. So this is awesome because this is March, and March is Women's History Month. We
Yep.
just got done with Black History Month. Now we're moving into March,
And
Women's History
self-love
Month,
month. Let's not forget self-love month.
Self-Love Month. Yep,
That's the
all
last
tied into
episode.
one. I hope you did your challenge. I don't know. Did you? Here's what I did for my challenge. I'll just share what I did. You challenged us to do something for 5 days, and I decided for 5 days I was going to actually get a rose oil and just anoint my hands, my
Hmm.
heart. And I did that every morning just to kind of bless myself, but also to just let God do what he wants to so I can show his love to others. And that was just a simple thing for me. But, it literally made my day so much better because I could just feel like I could smell that rose oil, but I did something that was meant something to me. It was a ritual that meant something to me, but it was just a gateway for me to open up to God's love. So that's what I did. What do you do?
Well, what I
Pick
did.
one. I know you did more than one, so pick one.
Well, you saw in the last episode, I have my art tools here and
Mm-hmm.
my pencils and stuff. So I committed to drawing in my journal, my art journal every day. And I
Oh.
would show you pictures, but I'm using it as a computer stand right now, my journal. So because Chrissy Lynn and I, we had to do a little adjusting on the camera,
Mm-hmm.
and so I had to use my journal. But I journaled. A lot of times I don't know what to write in my journal. I don't know if any of
Mm-hmm.
you sisters out there are like that, and you struggle like, well, I don't know what to write. Well, sometimes I'll just doodle. I'll just do scribbles, and pick different colors and use my journal. So that's what I did, Christy Lynn. It was fun.
Oh, good. Yeah. And it can be simple, right? Like, I think sometimes we think, oh, it has to be this big, grandiose thing. It doesn't. So I'm glad you did that. So let us know in the comments what you did. We'd love to hear what you did for yourself for Love Month, Self Love Month. So here's the deal about today's show.
Tell us the
Dorothy Inez,
tell
she's
us the
gonna cut, she's gonna have to cut me off because this is what started my whole journey. And I'm just going to try and give you some highlights. But like we say in every show, do the research for yourself. You don't have to believe us just because we told you, but we're going to give you some resources. And I read a book, and the first book I read, and I'm going to talk a little bit about it, is this, and we'll put it in the show notes, but it's by Beth Allison Barr. And it's called The Making of Biblical Womanhood, How the Subjugation of Women Became Gospel Truth. This book is not the end of the journey, but it started the journey for me. And, Jesus was a radical feminist. Let me just put that out there. If you really understand Jesus, he loved beyond what any of the Jewish traditions said at the day, any of the Roman tradition, any of that. He loved women as much as he loved himself, right? That's what we talked about, self-love. You got to love yourself, and then you can love other people, right?
And
So,
Jesus said it.
So in this book, what got my wheels spinning is she introduces this whole system of Christian patriarchy that limits and devalues the worth of women. And it's taking, in its core, it's taking the feminine side of God out, and it's oppressing for feminists, right?
Yeah.
And it's not feminist like I'm going to burn my bra and I'm going to whatever be a man hater. That is not what we were talking about.
What is feminist? Because we use that, and especially for conservative believers,
Right.
that's triggering. So can you tell us what is actually a feminist?
It is triggering. And remember I asked you about divine feminine, and you're like, I just don't resonate with that.
Yeah. I was like, girl, I don't resonate with. I mean, I feel what the divine feminine is, but and I acknowledge the Holy Spirit as the divine feminine of God. However, I haven't gotten there. I'm still on the journey.
Yeah, and that's fine. And it is a lot about that. And I'm going to give you like some cliff notes, but I want you to just look into this for yourself. But the concept of the divine feminine and spirituality is, how do we empower the feminine face of God and balance it with the masculine face of God, right? Because we want equality, because God is both male and female.
And so we were created in his image.
We're created in his image. And actually that verse talks about, in the Hebrew, it's Elohim, means multiple gods. So they were both male and female. The Elohim created us. And actually, now this, because I'm such a nerd, but catch this.
Taking notes here, y'all.
Take notes.
Get your notebook out. Get your notebook. Hold us. Okay, so we got to learn about the Elohim. Okay,
the Elohim, right? You need to learn about the Elohim. Look that up. Elohim. But I'm going to take you down this thread. I call it the golden thread, one step further. So the original Hebrew text that talked about the Spirit of God, the word, and I'm going to terribly pronounce this, but it's Chokmah, Hokmah, and it means wisdom. When the Bible was translated into Greek, that word for wisdom was Sophia. Sophia is really, she is not just a thing, she's a being whose nature is wisdom, and she participated in the work of creation. Look up Proverbs 8, I think it's 22 or 30 or both. It's one of the verses is, I, Sophia, was present at the beginning of creation. She is balanced with the Elohim. She helped create.
Look that up right now, Christy Lynn, while you
look it up. Proverbs 8, 22 maybe, or
I ain't never heard
8:30.
of Sophia in the Bible because I've seen this Sophia, like I've seen her on cards, and I'm like, who is Sophia? Who is Sophia? I have not heard of.
So it's going to be modern day translation. It's going to say wisdom.
Okay.
But that's what I'm learning. And especially when you read the biblical womanhood book, you start learning all these different scriptures that it's like playing a game of telephone, right? One person at the beginning says, I love hot dogs. And by the time you get to number 50, it's, I fell in love with the dog and married him. Okay. So we
Oh,
get all these different translations. So wisdom went from that chokma to Sophia to wisdom in the English translation. But if you really look at what the original context and the original word is, I wisdom is really I, Sophia, the feminine balance to Jesus who participated in creation. She is wisdom. And so I really like I just grabbed onto that because I'm like, what? It actually is there in plain sight, right? And so if you dig a little deeper and understand that a lot of these verses that we're learning that shaped what a woman's role is in the Bible and in the Christian community is because it started out in one word in the original language in the original teachings, and then in 326 AD, I think it was around that time, there was an emperor, not an emperor, oh my gosh, I can't think of the word, bishop, something like that. And he decided to change the words that we know now into something else because they wanted women to be suppressed in society, because if you put a woman down, she doesn't have a lot of economic resources, she doesn't talk out loud, the men can control the economy. That's really what kind of happened, but they changed this languaging. And so the divine feminine was in the beginning of time, male and female. So I'm not throwing out the male. So don't send me your hate mail saying, oh, it's not just female. It is the balance, right? It's the balance. We were made in the image of God, male and female. So for divine feminine within, that's going to empower me to embrace my inner wisdom, embrace my strength as a unique yet equal personhood with the God within. It is my spirit within. It is the divine feminine. And catch this, men also have an element of the divine feminine in them.
Yeah, they have
Right.
it has to be balanced. So I did look it up. And so, because and this is what you have.
Challenge me. Mm-hmm.
You don't want to just take, like Christy Lynn, we say this all the time, don't take what we're saying, do the work we've done. You have to do your due diligence, because if believe everything, that people say, you're going to fall for anything. So it says, in these, the wisdom of God is often personified as a woman. Scholars now commonly refer to this personification as Sophia, the Greek word for wisdom. In Proverbs 8, Sophia speaks of herself. She was with God before creation, and she was the master worker through whom God created, which is why women give birth, okay? And so it refers to scriptures, Proverbs 8, 22 to 31. And remember what Christy Lynn shared with us, and this is from let's see what this is. This is from a website. There's several websites that talk about, even a Christian journal is talking about, I don't know what the initials are, but there's a Christian journal that talks about it. Remember, Sophia stands for, just replace it with wisdom, because all it is, wisdom is the English word for the Greek, which is Sophia. Is that correct? Did I articulate that right?
Correct.
So
Yeah. And so you can kind of see where when we talk about the divine feminine, it's not talking about throw the men away. And now remember, when babies are born, there's an X chromosome and a Y chromosome. And there are men have X and Y. Okay. So there's always, even at a scientific level, there's a female and male chromosome that makes a male.
Mm-hmm.
Think about that.
Yeah.
So even in the wisdom of creation, all of us carry a piece of the feminine inside of us. And so that's what, like, I heard that and I went up down on my own study, and I have shelves of books that are all about this. I'll share a few of them with you. But the thing that really got to me was, oh my gosh, I am equally as divine as any male. And I'm also carrying, we talk about in our last show, in our temple, we are the temple of the God of the male and the God of the feminine. And to be honest, I'm going to throw this out there. What do you think about this? I just had
Throw it
this
out.
thought.
Throw it out there.
Throw it out there. If God is male and female, is God really non binary? Is God genderless?
Oh, so this is so crazy. We talked about
Huh?
this on, I listened to Bishop D.E. Polk,
Mm-hmm.
and he is kind of he took over the throne of Bishop Carlton Pearson, essentially preaching the gospel of inclusion. And we were talking about this last week. Is God genderless? Is God a
Mm-hmm.
they, them?
Yeah,
Because,
I don't know.
yeah, because God is male and female. I mean, because it says, let us create God in our image. He created male and female.
So, yeah, that poses a good question. And again, we're not here to tell you an answer because I don't know. But if you start thinking for yourself, this is the awakening, right? Let's think for ourselves, put
Yes.
ourselves back into scripture, put ourselves back into theology. We used to think theology is, oh, all these old men in the 1800s that are these great theologians. Theology is just a study of God, right? We all need to be
No, it's
theologians,
always.
and we as women especially, we need to know, especially if you believe in God, you need to know about God. And you
Yeah.
need to not just know about Jesus, you do need to know his teachings, in my opinion, because again, he was a radical feminist. But we also need to know the counterbalance, the Sophia, and we need to then figure out, well, how does that fit for me? And I just, that's why I want to go through a couple of things for this whole, again, each of the aspects of the divine feminine could be a whole show, right? So we're
Yeah.
just giving you the cliff notes. We just want you to awaken to
Well,
the
we'll say Christiane
possibilities.
is just giving you the cliff notes. Dorothy Inez is over here.
She's taking notes. She's over there taking notes, and she is
Yeah.
also fact checking me. She is the
Yeah.
fact checker on this show.
I'm fact checking her. But also, one of the beautiful things that people don't realize, like you and I have talked about a lot of times, is how women have been removed from scripture.
Yep.
And women funded Jesus's ministry. Jesus appeared to who first? A
A
woman.
woman
Okay, after he rose, it wasn't a man. He appeared to a woman,
who
and
stayed with him the whole time by the cross.
mhm,
A woman who was at his tomb when he was buried. A
mhm,
woman,
mhm.
right? Okay, sorry. I
Yeah,
just got
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's true, and so we're so minimized in scripture, yet we played a really big role. And not only that, for those of you who don't know, I went to school. I was going to be a pastor, and I spent a year in one of the top seminaries until the questions I started asking were not welcome. They were so not welcome that the teacher tried to accuse me of plagiarism to get me kicked out. And so, but it was during that time, Christy Lynn, that I started to have my awakening because I was studying to be a woman's pastor. It was during that time that I was like, wow, women played a role in some of the biggest religious Christian movements in the world. Foursquare Church. Foursquare was a movement started by a woman in California.
yeah.
Um, and some of these Protestant religions that some people are a part of, women were the backbone, but the man was on the front, was on the pulpit, but it was the woman. One of them I can't remember right off the top of my, he couldn't even talk to the parishioners. All he could do was preach. It was his wife's people skills that kept that going. And it was somebody from the Great Revival. I forget his name. I'd have to look him up.
Mm.
But women play a big role. The divine feminine is, I know it is important. That's why I told Christy Land, this is an important conversation because it's also uplifting to us as women.
Hmm.
Because in the church, you're diminished. You're told you can't preach, you can't teach, you can only do a Bible study, a little Bible study, Sunday school. No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
Yeah. And oh my gosh. Okay. Tons of research. You can look up Nevertheless, She Preached. It's a Instagram and it's a conference and it's a group of women that are talking about the same thing. But it's more and more, I think that's what we're awakening to. More and more women theologians are writing books and writing things about feminist theology. And it's just incredible to me because we're alive in this time. And I think it's such a time as this that we're doing this show that we can start talking about these things. Another thing I want to bring up is a lot of the goddess archetypes that were prior to Christianity being formed, there were so many spiritual traditions connected with the goddesses that when Christianity started coming, they didn't want to upset the culture 100%. So they literally just changed the names of pagan goddesses and gave them Christian names like Saint Anne, Saint Bridget, Isis, even sometimes people consider to be Mother Mary or Mary Magdalene. And so they just shifted names because they knew it would be more palatable.
Mhm.
But really, we kept that culture. So there is a lot of paganism. Don't yell at me again, but there's a lot of paganism in Christianity
Okay,
that
come on.
we,
Easter egg, the Christmas tree. Come on.
I mean, let's just open our
Wasn't
eyes
born in
about that.
December. Jesus wasn't born in December.
It wasn't about a little baby in a manger in the cold in December.
Yep.
It's all about a Christmas tree, but we've totally commercialized that. So just open your eyes, my friends, open your eyes and start looking for yourself. But a lot of those goddesses were about wisdom, love, strength, and they provided role models, diverse role models for different women. I think Saint Bridget was a Celtic goddess of something. Sorry, I didn't look that up, but I read about her and then she became Saint Bridget, same person, but just now she's Christianized. And so we sometimes I think we need to go back to these sources of inspiration to really figure out our divine feminine because you may relate to some of those saints and some of those goddesses, and not because you worship them, but because they have a piece of the puzzle of the creation. They have a piece of the puzzle of nature. I don't know. I see you thinking. I see your wheels turning.
Yeah, my wheels are turning, turning. Uh, so my question, in Christian tradition, um, the woman, like it's considered to be more feminine when you're kind of stepping back and you're allowing the man to lead. The woman is supposed to do whatever her husband says, be subservient, be submissive to her
Mhm.
husband. So I'm curious, do we lose that when we step into our divine feminine? I mean, how do we maintain our femininity and still allow so that we're not stepping too much into the masculine because we're now stepping into our divine feminine? And how much of this is actual feminism, feminist,
Mhm.
I guess is the word. So I'm curious, how do you maintain that balance? And what does that look like, what does that look like, Christy Lynn?
I love that question. And here's a good analogy. Um, because we were created both male and female, but the female got pulled out, we're operating as half a person right now. So we need to fill that female tank again so we can be balanced.
Mhm.
So we're not losing our spirituality, we're really reclaiming it.
And
right? And we're in.
how do you do that? How do you reconnect to the feminine? Because so many of
Mhm,
us, especially here in America,
mhm,
you're a single mom. When do you get to be feminine? Because you're always in the mask and you're always in the do, do, do. How do
mhm,
you get to be in that part of the feminine that's about the being, that's about the flow? How do you balance that and still be, especially for the woman who is still in her on her Christian journey, how does
mhm.
she balance that and embrace this part of herself?
Well, it's interesting because if she was just by herself, you're right, that'd be one thing. But if she's a woman with a family, it's going to upset the apple cart a little bit. Like, I'm not going to sugarcoat it because, and it's kind of like the self love thing too. If I start setting up boundaries, my man might start getting upset because
Right.
he thinks I'm punishing him. But I'm like, nope, I'm protecting myself because if I can protect myself, I can be better for you, or vice versa. So here's my answer to that. To reclaim that, it starts with baby steps in how you express yourself. There's a study done that corporate American women apologize and say they're sorry like 80% more than men ever do.
Mhm.
So express yourself, start looking at your languaging. It could be as simple as that. You don't have to say, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. You never hear a man say that. You can say,
I
what?
just wanted to say is that's an affirmation is I am sorry.
Mhm. Right.
So you want to, I'm just going to say, I never say I am sorry because it's like saying you're a sorry whatever
Hmm.
a person. You can apologize. I apologize. But
Yes.
anything that follows I am, sisters, you are claiming it
Hmm.
over yourself. So do not follow I am with anything that's negative, like sorry.
Right. No, I agree.
I had to
So, I
jump
mean,
in
those
on
are,
that self love.
no, I'm glad you did. So, those are little things. But if you start reclaiming, maybe you start reading about some of these. Maybe you can, if you're from the Catholic faith, you can start reading about some of the saints and look up the background. Look up the background of the pagan goddesses. You are not going to go to hell if you read a book. Okay. Read a book, and there might be
I want to
a,
go to the book.
and
Because
I'm saying that because we need to read the book, and maybe there's a piece of wisdom you're going to get from that woman that you're like, you know what, I really resonate with that, because that's your ancestral spirit from women's lineage down, down, down. We all came from a woman at some point. And right, and so we start looking at what are other rituals and how can we bring a sense of the sacredness into my daily life. That's how I think we reclaim it. And we start by little things because you can't just throw everything out, whatever. And remember, it's a balancing act. We want to balance this and we want to use our intuition. That's another thing. We can start relying on our intuition because if we're in our inner temple, that's the inner wisdom that God is giving us. Same thing as um, intuition. If we start relying on that more, it helps ourselves feel more at home with ourselves, right?
yeah.
Like, I embrace that because a lot of times I think we don't trust our instincts. Like, we know it. We all go through things that we're like, I knew it, I knew it, I knew it, and I should have done it, but I didn't,
I knew
right?
he was cheating. I knew it.
I knew he was seeing someone else, but I brought him back anyway. And now look, he's got a baby with that woman. Like, right? Okay, that's my story.
It's
I
okay, Christy.
digress.
Bring it all right.
I digress. But so I have to reclaim my spirituality and I have to center myself, right? Like, I don't want to think about that anymore. But how do I express myself, connect to my own spiritual essence, and let my tuition ride the wave? Because that's God given wisdom. So
Mhm.
don't confuse that with a weird practice. It's not weird at all. It's guiding yourself through that inner wisdom that comes from God. That's the source. It comes from God. And so, how do I look at that as a valuable source of guidance and wisdom, and how I live my life every day and bringing in these little spiritual things on a daily basis?
Yeah. Because even that, the intuition, I always think of it as Holy Spirit because
Hmm.
it says
Yep.
it's that still small voice. And
Voice.
that voice, it sounds like your voice. But it is wise. That's why I had said in our last episode, I was like self love.
Hmm.
That's with the capital S. That's about that highest version of yourself knows. And like you were saying, we seek outside of ourselves a lot of times for things, but really your soul knows. And I kind of feel like, Christy Lynn, what I want to just challenge our listeners today is to tap into do 5 days of practicing trusting the intuition, trusting the first thing that comes to your mind. If you're
Hmm.
driving, I used to do this in LA a lot when I'd want a parking space. And I would be like, I'd drive in, I was in Brea, and I'd drive into the parking garage. And I was like, I knew where I was going to park, and Spirit would be like, go left. And I'm like, but I was going to go right,
Hmm.
go left. So I go left, and
Hmm.
boom, there's the front row parking. You know,
Let spirit surprise you.
and it's a fun game because this is a confidence builder.
Hmm.
This is something when I'm working with women, Christy Lynn, around confidence. Um, I am here to help them like tap into this part of themselves because the more you tap into that, you become more confident when you're like, whoa, that was that trusting my intuition. That was right. Because there's nothing, I'm sure you can attest to, there's nothing more fun than walking with the spirit through life. It
Hmm.
takes the pressure,
I'm telling you,
takes the pressure off.
it's the only way to live. I mean, yeah, because it's not you making the decisions, but you're all, you get that support, and you hear, and you manifest. As a woman thinketh, so she is. That's Christy's version of that proverb. When you think about it and you let Holy Spirit tell you, even if it makes no sense, there are things Spirit's going to tell you, and you're like, mm-mm.
Mm-mm.
But you do it, right? You learn to do it because you got that parking spot last time you listened to her. So now you need to listen to Spirit, and she'll tell you the right answer, right? So I really
That's
believe, like,
your blessing.
it is. It is. So accept that blessing. And, that brings up a good point. Another thing about using our intuition, but as women, you talked about how can we like get that feminine, divine feminine. I also think you and I agree that's what we're doing right here is community and sisterhood.
Yes.
Like this whole concept of women, they used to call it the red tent. If you ever saw that movie, it's an amazing documentary movie. I don't know what you would call it, but women in the past ancient times, when it was that time of the month, they would gather in the red tent. But they would learn from each other, they would lift each other up. And we need to have that community of sisterhood. And you do really well with that. It encourages collaboration. It makes us understand each other's stories. We don't have to agree with their stories, but we can be empathetic to their stories and share wisdom and be a network for us and be this collective growth that we want to see in the world. And we miss that, not ancient, but 100 years ago, the farmers would build barns and the women would do quilts. Well, they had to make a quilt because that's all they could use for a blanket. It didn't come from Walmart, right? They had to make their own. But that that was they could talk about having babies. They could talk about whatever they needed to talk about in a safe environment, in a sacred space. We don't have that anymore, right? Like,
The Shine Collective, you do.
mhm, you
You
do. If you live in Minneapolis, you need to go to one of Dorothy Inez's events. You do virtual ones too, and that's really important. But I just think we've lost that. So, in my opinion, to get some of this divine feminine back, we have to connect with each other again, and we can do it through Zoom. We can do it through chat groups. If you can do it in person, I think that's
we should
even
do.
more amazing.
I think you and I should host a sister circle.
Mhm.
We should
Yeah,
talk, you
yeah.
know. Um, Christy Lynn, share at the beginning, we forgot to share what we do and how, especially with this kind of work. tell women how you serve, and then I'll share how I serve.
Sure. I love how I serve, and it's been a version of the same thing, but I love seeing women operate in their highest calling and really embracing their essence. And so I'm really a spiritual lifestyle coach for women and helping them understand the call in their life, but also looking back and saying, I go to this far and then I get stuck. And so we look in the book of your soul and we do a lot of soul work and we heal any wounds that are there and help you progress through. And I love doing the one-on-one deep dive. I also love talking to big groups and big conferences, but that one-on-one deep dive, I think, is so important for women. It's a way that we can connect and share, listen to the stories, and help each other get through the blocks of
Mhm.
whatever's keeping us. But then the next step is I'm having a community as well. Like Dorothy Inez has the Shine community. It's going to be the Sacred and Savvy Sanctuary. And so it's going to be a place that we meet up, and I'm going to do some teaching once a month. And then we're going to have Q&A and just start this community and sisterhood again and feminine spiritual practices. That's really my thing. I love teaching about the
I
tools for
know.
meditation. I know. And I have some amazing meditations that we're going to be releasing. Dorothy Inez has some too. Like, we're both so into that meditation piece because it's when we can quiet our mind and we don't empty it, but we give it to God. And then we open it so spirit can fill in with that wisdom. And that's all we're talking about for divine feminine, right? So, anyway, that's a very long story for what I do. Dorothy Inez, where do you shine?
Well, I shine as the CEO and founder of the Shine Collective and Sanctuary. And as Christy Lynn said, the Shine Collective is online. You can find us on Facebook. It's the Shine Collective, a real sisterhood with Dorothy Inez. And I'm all about creating community and creating
Mhm.
sacred space in the Shine Collective, either online, because some of the classes are online, some of them are in person. We offer unique
Mhm.
ways for you to connect with other women, for you to grow as a woman. We've had healers in there, we've done qigong, we've had sex education in there. I mean, we've had all kinds of amazing events that support women in their personal and spiritual growth. And then in the Shine Sanctuary, which you have to be here for that, is I do Reiki, I do vibroacoustic sound therapy, I do group sound healing, and we really work on healing the inner you, because as part of
Mhm.
my coaching, I bring all of these elements together so I can help you if you're a woman who's burnt out, struggling with self-doubt. I'm your girl. Reach out to me. And between the two of us, you can have Christy Lynn helping you on that deep soul work, and Dorothy Inez helping you to show up and shine as your most
Mhm.
powerful, beautiful, confident self from the inside out. So we
And
are,
we do the same thing. We do different things, but what we both do, I was listening to you talk as well. We really get you in alignment with your most spiritual self.
yeah, the highest version of yourself. Because
Yep.
here's what Christy Lynn and I know is that you're here on purpose for a purpose. You're not
Yep.
here to dim your light, to shine, to just
Mhm.
be this.
Mhm.
Because I hear women go, "Oh, I'm just a mom. I'm just..." No, no, girl, you're not just a mom. You're
Yeah.
raising future leaders. Thank you very much. We honor you. But there's also, once those little ones leave, there's still more for you out there in the world. So, um, the other thing I want to say is, Christy Lynn, when are we coming back on again?
We are coming back on. You know what? It's going to be St. Patrick's Day on the
Is
17th of
it?
March.
Oh my God.
Yes, we're going to have a St.
Oh, we're
Patrick's
going to
Day
be green.
celebration.
We're going to
Wear
be
green. Wear your
green.
green.
Yes,
No, I
yes.
looked it up. Yeah, so March 17th
March
is our next
17th
show.
is our next show.
And I do want to challenge you with two things. Number one, I want to challenge you. We always do a challenge. I challenge you to join our Awakened Heart group.
Yes.
on Facebook. So you can be a part of the afterglow, part of the conversations that we're having, get some more resources on there, ask any questions you want to ask. Um,
Because that's
Follow
where
up
we're
with us.
books. That's where we're going to post these
Yeah.
most wonderful
Yep.
books.
All these
So if
books.
you want these books, you're going to have to come over in the group.
Yeah. Yeah. And I also want to challenge you on, since it's Women's History Month this month, think about and tell us, what woman in history do you really admire?
That's
Like, just think, you have to think about, because there's a lot of women that have done a lot of amazing things. But I would love to hear who you think is someone that has really impacted your life, a woman.
mm,
And it doesn't have to be a famous person, right? Like, I want to hear, like, who has really lifted you up, and you may know them, you may not know her, but put in the comments in the group or on the show page. Just let us know what that looks like to you, because there are a lot of women out there that we don't know, a lot of women authors out there that I've been looking at recently that are talking about all this stuff, that we just need to support each other. So
yeah.
I'd like to know, what woman in history, let's do a woman in history, dead or alive, that has really impacted your life, and just let us know.
I already know mine.
Mm-hmm. All
Mhm.
right. You want to share? You want to wait? Join the group. Oh, Miss Oprah.
Oprah.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Janet.
No, Oprah. No, for my personal growth, it's Oprah. That's why she stays on
Mm-hmm.
my phone. She reminds me, she said, keep this on your phone because every time you look at that picture, Dorothy Inez, I want you to remember what's possible.
Oh, what a great story.
Mm,
It's not a story, it really happened. I love it.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Oprah is, yeah, she's amazing.
love her, love her. So
Mm-hmm.
we hope that you took away so many nuggets. Christy Lynn dropped some nuggets. And again,
Mm-hmm.
these are topics that we're going to always talk about because we're
Right.
growing, right, Christy Lynn? It doesn't stop here. We're
Yep.
going to talk about self-love, self-care, the divine feminine. Because Christy Lynn and I talk about all this. We got a little bit of teaching element going on right now,
Mm-hmm.
but we're also having conversations that, and we're talking about things that we actually do talk about. So we hope that you will join Christy Lynn and I for the next Awakened Heart. Mark your calendar, March 17th, 8 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
Eastern Standard Time. March 17th, come in green
And
and
bring some tea.
bring some
Bring
tea
yourself
because
some
we be
tea.
spilling the tea. Okay, we
Mm-hmm.
have different cups next time. But bring your tea, bring your notebooks, and bring your conversation. We'd love to hear from you. What's your biggest takeaways? And don't forget Christy Lynn's challenge of who in history, tell me if I'm getting this right, who in history has impacted your life? And I think I gave you a little challenge early in the game. I don't remember what it is, but it was good. Okay.
I know it
I
was
just
good,
be,
but that train will come back.
yeah, I just be flowing in the spirit, and I'm like, oh Lord, I don't know what I said, but it was good. I know that. So
Mm-hmm.
we love you, and we'll see you next
We
time.
do.
Toodles.
Bye.
Bye.